Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. And welcome to part 5 of the bathroom edition here in the shop. So this morning I went and picked up my brake. I had it at a buddy's house, so I had to go get that this morning. My trim pieces came in that I had ordered, and I also went and picked up a few more sheets of the charcoal gray siding for the walls here. So today the goal is to finish the exterior of this thing, get it wrapped up. And so far this morning I've been blocking off the openings between the rafters there because we're using a solid soffit. It's non-vented. We're going to spray foam the bottom side of the roof there, so we don't want any ventilation in this attic here. So I'm blocking them off so I can foam the back side of them. We got our F and J channel along therein. I started putting in some of the soffit pieces. I also got the little bird box built here on the corner this morning, so it's going to match the rest of the way the other bird boxes are in the building. So I still got to do this side here. Got all the wainscot on around here. Still got to do the transition trim between the two. But yeah, so today's goal is try to get this thing wrapped up and put all the corner trims on, windows trim, fascias, all that good stuff, and try to get this done. So stick around and I'll show you how it gets done. We're gonna put our transition on here now. I'm gonna show you guys how to make this nice clean corner like this over on this side. First step is we're gonna cut this bottom of this trim off on a slight angle here. Not too drastic, just a very small taper of an angle. So what that does is it cuts the hem off and puts it on a taper so that we can slip this one over top of it. So what we need to do, see how that hem is smashed flat right there? We'll open that up a little bit, make a little groove there, like that. Now what that does is it allows it to slip in behind that piece. And when you push it on there, it draws it nice and tight and flat, and it locks it in place instead of just lapping on top of there and having that big hem on the face of this where it would be building up and making it thick. When you lap it like that, it makes it a nice transition. So then we'll come over to this end. So right on the outside of the wall, we'll make a mark. So now what we need to do, we'll transfer that down. So that's our wall, but our miter needs to be 3/4 of an inch past that because this is a 3/4 inch lip here. So what we'll do is we'll add 3/4 of this. So we'll go 3/4. Then we'll actually add 3/4 again. 3/4. You can transfer these down. So the second line that we drew 3/4 over is actually the point of where the metal is going to bend at. So that's actually the bend point there. So then we got to go mark the other 3/4 that we made on there. We're going to cut either one of the right or left lines. Just got to cut one of them and cut the center line all the way down. So we'll go ahead and we're going to cut this one first. Then we'll cut this one down. Then we'll bend that down like that. So we're going to take our snips and go right from that point to the tip out here. Just like that. Cut that off. Cut that off. Last thing we got to do is cut right in this corner here. And we'll take this and bend it right on that line. Nice tight 90. One last thing we'll do is we'll just nip some of this corner off here, just so it tucks in there better. So now you got this kind of crazy looking cut here. You take your snips right on your line there and just kind of pinch that with the tips, and then start bending it. Then you can let go. And now that laps right over. Gives you a nice clean corner, outside corner. And this is protected well. Once we get on the wall, we can kind of hammer this flat. I'll show you how that goes. Gotta remember to tuck our end in over there. Just like that. You can see, it makes a nice clean corner. And once we start nailing it, I'll tap that down and show you. So a narrow crown stapler works really well for holding all these trims on. And you don't have to get crazy because the screws in the bottom row are going to hold it in place anyways. Slip it in there. And then what we'll do is, since we know this one's going to go on top of this one, we'll make a mark right where it ends. Okay. And we'll go about 3/4 inch past that. One thing I learned about snips, I'm definitely not great with them and remembering rights and lefts and when to use them, but what I found is whatever side's pushing down onto the metal is, you want that to be on the side of the metal that you want to keep. So these are the lefts here. I'm going to cut this, and the side that it's pushing down on is the side of the metal I'm keeping, because it usually leaves a cleaner cut on that side. It's not trying to peel the metal up. But now if I'm going to go ahead and cut from the back side here, I got to switch snips. And even though this is behind the wall, I'd probably be fine if I use the other ones, but and then what you got to do is cut a chunk of the material out of the way. Fold it down so you can get in there with the snips. Finish your cut. Just like that. So we open that end up, which means we have to cut the taper on this end. So that's where our other piece ends, so it's where we're going to cut up to. Just like that. Okay, well, not too far. And then we can take this end out. Slip this end in. That gives you a pretty clean transition there. Make sure we're in all the way. Let me go ahead and staple it off. So now you can see it makes a pretty nice corner right there. Everything is lapped over. This is on top of that. This is lapped over that. This one goes about 3/4 inch behind here. So everything's pretty well sealed up. So if water does come down the sheathing up here, it's not just a slot right there that it can fall through. We're going to secure these with just some 1.5 inch narrow crown staples. Nothing about these is structural. It's just there to hold back the spray foam from the inside, give it something to spray against. Help close up the opening. We can just put them up here. And since we have a double top plate, there's some top plate exposed. Just nail them into that. And then we'll do a couple on an angle into the rafters. That's it. So we got to make our bird box on this gable end here to match this side. So I'm going to show you guys how to figure out that angle real quick. It's pretty simple. So if this is a 412 pitch roof, which it is, and if you look at your common cuts here, and if you were to go ahead and line up a 412, obviously that's not the right angle for underneath there. But what that angle does tell us, if you line that up, it tells us how many degrees a 412 is. So there's 15, 16, 17, 18, and we're going to call it a half a degree. And it's actually, I think 18.43 is the real degrees for a 412, but 18.5 is plenty close enough. So what we need to do is we need the opposing angle to 18.4 degrees, because that 18.4 degrees is from a 90. So it's 18.4 degrees from 90. But we need a 412 from the 180 degree marker, the flat mark. So we need to, if this here is 90 degrees, we need this pi, not this pi. So what we do is we take 90 degrees, take 90 degrees minus 18.4 into 17.6, so 71.6, sorry, I can't read. So 71.5 degrees is the opposite of that angle that we need. So what we'll do is we'll take our speed square again, and we'll look over here, and there's 65, there's 70, there's 71, and we need about 71.5. And we'll go ahead and draw that line. Okay, so this is the piece we're going to need. So we'll go ahead and cut this. Since I got the track saw sitting here, it just makes it that much easier to cut it. We'll line that up. So, cut it down. Okay, so there is our piece, our angle that we need there, our 71.5 degree angle. Now, instead of taking this whole chunk up there, I know the overhang's 12 inches, but it's actually gonna be less than 12 inches. There's already a flat spot on that rafter tail up there. So I'm just gonna whack it off quick at 12 inches, then we'll go up there and I'll mark exactly where it's gotta get cut. On this end rafter, it's a 12-inch overhang. So we'll pull the tape parallel with the ground, level, make it mark at 12 inches. Put this piece back up there. Make sure it's flushed out right here. You don't want it hanging over or up too high. You want to make sure it planes right out real nice. And just go ahead and transfer that mark right here. We'll cut that piece off. If you look, we're on the mark and we're perfectly level. So that worked out really well. So while that's right there, I grabbed the stapler and we'll just throw a couple staples in here to tack it for a second. So we're not trying to hold it. Then what we need is a block to go from this last rafter tail to the back side of this. But instead of just using a little chunk that's the same height as that, we can go up into this cavity farther. So we're gonna use a piece of 2x6, and that'll allow us to screw it in here and here, and tie everything together real nice. This right here, I'm gonna flush it out onto this, on the back of this. A few screws up the bottom. After here, we want to make sure this is level going this direction. Right there. That's basically it. So anytime I can cut this F and J channel here, instead of cutting it with the snips, this metal saw works really great because there's so many bends and hems on it, it's kind of a pain to cut through it with the snips. So this works really well to make a straight line. I tries, buddy.
That's what I do.
So yeah, it just makes a nice easy cut without having to cut around and cut out a notch. You get the snips in there. You can just slice right through it. I need to get a new blade because that one is getting pretty dull. All right, so we're gonna put our F and J channel here on the wall. And I already got the piece here on this side. And what you gotta do so they kind of intersect each other is, I'll show you this notch, but you gotta cut about 7/8 of an inch of the J channel out of the way here so that it can butt into the other one and not have a big gap there in the corner. So I got my laser set up and I have it set for the bottom of this J channel here, the hem portion of it. And we're just gonna use the crown stapler here and we're gonna work our way down.
That looks good.
Like it?
Uh-huh.
Tell them what tool you're using.
I'm using the nibbler, and I'm gonna cut it right here.
Yep, push it up.
And this side, you see that one corner? It cuts it right there.
You like that thing?
Yeah.
All right.
You just said it's really easy.
Even a kid could do it. All right, so we're gonna get our panels up on this wall. So we just wanna make sure our ribs are lined up with the ribs down below. All right, we wanna make sure our panels are nice and plumb. Got the laser set up, matching the existing screws on the building. So I just want to give you guys a closer look of the way it actually laps. So if you look at the face of it, the shorter leg actually goes on top, and the piece that's longer and has a little bit of a tail on the end goes behind. So if you look at like this last sheet here, this is the one that goes behind. It's got a little leg on it. And what it does is, in this gap right here, this allows, if water does get behind the sheet, there's a channel that the water can easily run down and not just stay trapped between the two. So if you lap it the other way, not only does it not look very good because you have a much larger piece of metal hanging out on top of your tin, this way it hides much easier, but it's not as effective as a water barrier. So just make sure you're lapping the shorter tail on top of the longer one. And like I was saying earlier, if this is your line of sight, have it where these sheets are overlapping these sheets so that the seam is on this side. If this is your main line of sight, then you're gonna be looking at this seam right here on every 3 foot, which on a short little piece like this is really not noticeable. When you got a real tall wall, you do see these seams. So if you're walking up to your building and this is your average line of sight, or from your house, that's the way you wanna lap your steel, so that you look at the side with no seam, and the side that has a seam is on the back side. So, and then you always screw to the right side of, not the right side, but to the opposite side of the short lap. So you put the screw here and that pushes down on that. If you were to screw on this side, then there wouldn't be nothing holding this piece down, because your next screw would be over here. So you screw so it holds down. Some people screw through the ribs. You can do that too. I find screwing in the flat, it's a little easier, and to me it looks a little cleaner. But that's it. Like I said, you always measure from the center of the ribs. That way it doesn't matter if you're trying to measure off the end that's got the longer tail or not. Everything comes off the center rib. So 23, which is about 3/4 inch past this rib here. This doesn't have to be a very precise cut because it's getting lapped over at the corner there. We're going to use the nibblers for this. These things work fantastic. These things are really good when you're cutting across the ribs because you can go up and over the ribs pretty well with them. When you're making real long cuts like that, I mean, they are a little slow, but it's still better than using a set of snips, that's for sure. We're gonna get the soffits put up now. So these are steel soffit material. You can order them pre-cut in 12-inch increments, or you can order them long and cut them to size. So these are non-perforated, they're solid, because we're doing a non-vented attic like we talked about, because we're gonna be spray foaming up there. That's why we blocked off these rafter tails here. So these are pretty simple. You just put them into the J channel that we put up. Tuck them up in there, get them flushed out with the face, and then you can take the narrow crown stapler and staple them right in. We're gonna get our inside corners put in. These are pretty self-explanatory. They just go up there and you screw them in the same screw lines as the rest of your walls. The only thing special we have to do with this one is make this little notch at the top here, because where the two J channels overlap, this one's got to go up where the other J runs past it all the way to the wall. So we just had to make a little relief notch. Slide that up in there. Tuck it in. We just want to look at it compared to the ribs next to it and just make sure you get the same reveal. So that way you know you're running vertical with it. And then we use the black screws. Yeah, we will screw it. We're going to make up the fascia pieces out of some 6-inch steel coil stock that I got here. So the 6-inch is already the perfect width for it. And all we're going to do is 3/4 inch is in from the bottom. We're just going to do a super light break, a little pressure kink right there. And then we're going to do a 90-degree, another 3/4 inch in. So 1.5 inches in is 90. So you still got 4.5 inches going up the fascia. It's going to tuck in behind the drip edge. And you got that little pressure break right there to keep it tight against the soffit panels that we got in there. And this brake here is it's made by Aluma-Brake, or Aluma-Pole is the company, and this is their brake. It's made in the US, and I've had it for a while, and it works really well. Haven't had no issues with it, and it breaks up this heavier gauge steel fairly well. It does have a decoiler on the end, and you can cross cut, and then you can cut across the face here too. And it's got all kinds of built-in, like you can set up stop gauges, and you can have it where you can cut a bunch of pieces, have them drop in your hair, pull it out. Or there's also, this is your cut line. So if you want to line up a piece, with the cutting edge here. Then you flip it up out of the way and you run the cutter down and slice it. Or you can flip these out, a couple of them. And one side's marked for your cut marks and one side's marked for your bends. So you can pull a sheet out to, let's say, 10 inches on both of them, lock it down, flip this up, and then you can break it at 10 inches. Or you can go to the cut line. The 10 inches on this side is cut, line it up, lock it down, flip it out of the way, and slice it. So it is a really nice brake. I used it on all the trim on the building here, and it just did a really nice job. I did all the windows and made all my own rake trims and everything, which we're gonna make some of those here in a little bit as soon as we finish these up. I don't know why, there's just something satisfying about breaking up steel and making your own little trim pieces, and just taking the time to figure out the proper sequence of brakes. That's a big part of it, is you might come up with this really cool window trim or transition that's got a J channel built into it and a hem and all these other configurations, and you got to figure out the sequence that you have to bend them in, because sometimes there's not a way to flip it and put it back in the brake after you bend one of the bends in it. So it's fun. It's challenging sometimes, but it is rewarding when you can just make up some cool pieces out of just basically coils of metal. So now you can see that real light faint line right there. That gives us a little bit of pressure onto the soffit when you tuck it up tight. We just got our 90. So before we stuff this up there, I'm going to back caulk this corner, and then I can run a bead of caulk on top of it afterwards. We're using the same stuff we used up top, the through the roof sealant. It'll work well for this. And we're going to use some black trim nails. So this tucks up underneath the drip edge there. Slide that in. So it tucks underneath that, and then that little pressure kink we put on there pushes nice and tight up against the soffit panels. And then we'll take our nails and nail down the center of this, making sure that it's tight and pushed up. We don't want to nail through the drip edge into this, because when we go to put the gutters on there, we try to tuck our gutters up under this drip edge the same way we're tucking this up there. And that keeps it so the water, everything flows in there. You don't get water going behind your gutters. So we want to make sure that's always loose until the gutters are up. Want to make sure you don't overdrive your nails, because it'll look really bad when they're all smashed in there. What I normally do is I'll line my nail up with a rib, and I'll skip a rib. So every other rib I'll put a nail. I'll just make sure I'm holding it up tight. I'm going right in the center of the fascia here. Hey, good morning guys. I'm back out here again this morning. Actually got a decently early start this morning. Yesterday, several things came up throughout the day, and by the time I went and ate dinner, hung out with the kids for a little bit, it was already dark by the time I got back out here. So this morning, what I'm working on is wrapping these bird boxes here on the end. Sorry, the sun's kind of bright. So basically it's just two pieces we're making up. There's a piece here that goes on the inside that laps under and holds the soffit in, and there's a piece that it breaks and goes up the soffit. It's going to be underneath the soffit and onto the wall. Then there's this end cap piece that breaks over on all three sides and goes up, and the fascia will go under here, and your rake trims, Gable trims will come down on top of this and cover all this up. So we're going to make these up for the other side. I'll show you how I did them. We'll get them put on. Then we can go ahead and get our F and J channel put up under there, get our soffits in, get this front wall sheeted, and should be done with the outside after that, other than just the outside corners. that's it. So let's plan. Okay, so for the inside of the bird box that kind of comes down on the soffit side and wraps under, we're starting off with a 7" by 13.5" piece. On the back side here, I got it marked where I'll have my 90-degree bend and my little pressure kink 3/4 in and an 1.5" in. So that's what's going to wrap up underneath the soffit on the bottom of the bird's box there. We'll bend this up to match the 412 of the inside of the soffit where it goes up. And then we'll break this at 90 here and make a slice here. So this will go onto the wall on the soffit and the wall on the front of the bird's box. And we got to cut this little square out here. So we'll start out by cutting this out because this doesn't need to be here. And then we got to slice this corner here. So we're going to want to just cut right through it. And then we're going to take we'll go over like 1/8 inch and then go to 0. Just take a little tiny pie out of there. Just like that, just so there's a little room for when these both bend up, then they can lap over each other. So the first break we're going to do is this up 90 here. So let's bring the brake, line it up. Up 90. And then we're going to do the underside of the soffit there. So we'll do our little pressure kink first. We got to use the end of the brake because now we got a bend on the end of it that's keeping us from sliding all the way in. That's no issue. Lock that in. Just give it a little kick. And we'll slide it up to 1.5" mark. This will be a 90-degree bend. So far as what we got, this is the underside of the soffit. It's got a little pressure kink in it. You see it there? We got our 90, so now only left we gotta do is bend this up. It's actually a 71-degree angle, that's the opposite of a 412. I'm gonna do that with this end of the brake. So that's what goes vertical, and this is what goes on the underside of the gable end soffit. And these lap over each other in the corner there. All right, so here's a little better view of what we need to make here. This is basically the end cap we're making in the flat. So before it gets bent up, this is what it's going to look like. So since these are all bending away from us, this is the outside view of it. We got to pretty much do a mirror image of this on the inside because that's where all our bends are going to be. It's all going to be folded upwards from here. And then cut all this out. Kink in it. This would be a 90. Another 90. All right. Let's go see if it fits. So this should slip underneath our front drip edge like that. And push it in and up tight here. You can see that laps over that, it laps over that way, it laps over the fascia. All the corners are nice and tight. So all we gotta do now is we'll hold it up tight and above these are gonna be covered with the Gable trim here. Don't overdrive your trim nails, let's grab it. We got all the soffits up now. We can go ahead and put our fascia trim on.
Hi. You like my tiger's cat?
You can kind of see how that transitions. Our little pressure brake there lines up nice with this. That's all sealed off nice. This can accept our wall flashing there. This is lapped over this one, plus we have a little bit of sealant behind there. This is lapped over there, and now our end trim will come down about that far and cover all this up and tie it all together. And once that's in place, we'll trim this back and fold it to cover up the top there. All right guys, so we're gonna break up the gable flashing. It's gonna go down the edge of the roof there. So what this is what's gonna come down the fascia, and it's got the hemmed edge here so we can screw in through that. And this comes out, up and over on top of the roof, and this gets screwed down to on top of the roof up there. So just a nice little detail. Instead of just using like an outside corner trim coming down your gables there, this kind of adds a nice little detail. It looks nice and clean. It seals up really good. It just looks nice. So basically what we got to do is there's a hem at the bottom. There's a series of breaks, and the order in which we got to break them in is we got to do the hem first. Then we got to do the second bend here, second, third, fourth, fifth, and this one last. So it's a pretty tricky scenario as far as the order in which you got to break them in. If you try to do it any other order than that, it won't work. So that's the way we got to do it. So we're gonna go ahead and break these up. I already got the two pieces cut to length. That's your 3/4 of an inch. Lock her in. Go all the way with it. Pull her out. Set it up here. Flatten it. Pull out a tape measure ever. So this is a 90 here. Okay, lock her in. Put it up flush. And this one you want to go just under 90 degrees because this is the piece that goes onto the roof. And I don't want to have it where it's curled up ever. I'd rather have a little pressure on it. So go just slightly less than 90 on that. Bring it down, and this is a 1-inch break. And on most speed squares, this edge is 1 inch. So I'll just use this as a gauge block. We'll just slide it in until it touches. Check this side. Good. Another 90. And that's it. There's our gable trim there. Yep. Alright guys, so we're going to get the one-piece window frame I just made put in. So before you put it up there, it's going to back caulk around the outside flange of the window here so that it seals up to it. Not completely necessary since everything's already sealed up, but we're gonna do it anyways across the top and the two sides. We're not gonna do the bottom for the same reason we didn't seal the bottom when installing the window. That way no water gets trapped down in there. So if any water does get behind any of this, it will come out the bottom instead of pooling up down there. This is definitely not a conventional way of trimming out windows for metal siding. But this is how I did the rest of the windows on the barn, and it did work out well. So it's all one piece. I caulked the back sides of all the seams and everything that comes together. It should fit right on here. Just like that. Go ahead and staple it in place. I just wanted to give you a little better look at the window trim that we got done last night. It got a little dark, so you probably guys didn't get to see it all completed. But that's all installed as one piece. I broke everything up separately, joined them all together, and once they were together I actually back caulked everything from the back side and sealed everything, but everything's folded over and lapped in a way where water can't really go behind there. So this is wrapped over here, this piece is on top of that, these are on top of this, this comes down, it's over top of this. Everything's folded and wrapped inside each other and completely sealed from the back side. And then the window has a thick bead of sealant on the three sides, and the frame got pushed on, tape or stapled to the wall, and then flashed off with the tape where the flange meets the wall. So this has a built-in J in it, so I'm gonna get the steel up now. Had it tuck in all the way around, and basically done. So I'm just gonna set up the camera here and get this wall done, get the corners on. We'll be done with the outside of this, other than a couple quick easy gutters that I'll do a little later on. So what you do is you measure to the top of your J channel here on the left, and then you measure how far you go around the corner. You measure your peak point here, and then you do your pitch, your 412 from there. So once that's up there, you slide it in. It's a really nice, clean fit there. Well guys, other than the gutters, the outside is complete. I think it looks pretty good. Everything lines up nice. The roof ribs line up with the wall ribs. Everything match as well. I feel like it adds a little character to that back of the building here that was kind of plain. Got to still put the mini split condenser back out here, the outdoor unit, but I think it looks pretty good. And the gutters will solve the splashing of the dirt problem. Everything turned out nice. That's going to be it for this one. It's officially done out there. All the steel's done, windows in, roof's done, it's backfilled, and it's looking pretty good. So I'm glad that portion's over. The only thing really left to do outside is some gutters, and I gotta get the mini split condenser unit put back up and recharge or vacuum the system out and get it fired back up. So those are two things left to do out there. But coming up, we're gonna be doing the insulation, rough electrical and everything on the inside. I am gonna be doing the froth pack foam insulation on the roof in there, so stick around if you wanna see that. And I do gotta make one roof penetration for the plumbing vent. So I do have a roof collar to go up there to get that vented out and sealed up, and we move it along. So hopefully next time you see me, we'll have some insulation up and roof penetration done. And after that, we'll be moving right along on the inside, get some electrical, plumbing, drywall, tile, finished plumbing, vanity, all that good stuff. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you could. Hit that like button. And leave me a comment if you got any questions or see anything I need to do different, or if you got any suggestions, let me know. So I'll see you guys. Thanks a lot.